In the quiet hours of an October night in 1984, a bright young student's life was brutally extinguished in her own apartment, igniting a mystery that would haunt Dallas, Texas for decades. Imagine a friendly gesture, opening your door to a stranger in need, becoming the decision that seals your fate. And the key to solving a brutal crime lay hidden, waiting for the perfect moment. Angela Samota, known affectionately as Angie, was born in Alameda, California on September 19, 1964. She was a bright, ambitious student at Southern Methodist University, whose life was as vibrant as the 1980s Dallas social scene she adored. Angie stood out not only for being one of the few females in the challenging fields of computer science and electrical engineering at that time, but also for her involvement in the Zeta Tau Alpha sorority. She was its social chair. Angela's independent spirit shone through as she lived in her own apartment while still a junior, a place she paid for herself. The youngest of 5 children, Angie was renowned for her friendly, cheerful, and sincere demeanor, lighting up every room with her brightest smile. She was not just an academic achiever. Her beauty and bubbly personality made her a beloved figure on campus. Her active participation in sorority activities, coupled with a demanding double major and a part-time job, showcased her remarkable drive and energy. But behind the facade of academic achievements and college parties, a sinister plot was unfolding. An encounter with a mystery assailant that turned deadly. Who wanted to harm Angie and why? The night of October 12, 1984, began like any other college evening in Dallas. 20-year-old Angela Samota spent her Friday night at the State Fair of Texas, enjoying the vibrant atmosphere with her friends Russell Buchanan and Anita Kadala. Angie's boyfriend, Ben McCall, a construction supervisor who had to rise early for work, was unable to join them. The fair was a prelude to their night at the exclusive Rio Room Dance Club. At the club, Angie, known for her sociable and lively nature, was in her element, mingling and moving from table to table with her radiant smile and infectious energy. Nobody knew this night would be her last. The night progressed with Angie dropping off Buchanan first, near his apartment in Lower Greenville, and then Kadala. Originally, Kadala had planned to stay over at Angie's condo but decided against it due to Angie's plans to attend a football game early the next day. Before driving home, Angie made a brief stop at her boyfriend Ben McCall's place. It was a routine goodbye, a simple, "See you later," but the ominous clock of fate was already ticking. Angela returned to her condo on Amesbury Drive alone. It was around 1:45 a.m. when McCall received an unsettling phone call from Angie. Angie's voice was laced with unease. She mentioned a stranger in her condo, a man who had come to her door asking to use her phone and bathroom. A seemingly innocent request, but was it? The phone call abruptly ended with Angie promising to call back. But that call never came. Instead, silence loomed. Concerned, Ben called her back, but there was no answer. Ben, struck by worry, rushed to Angie's apartment only to find her door locked. There was no response to his knocks. Panic set in. With no other option, he used his early-generation mobile phone, a necessity for his construction job, to call the police. The further events of that night unraveled into a mystery. The police arrived shortly after 2 a.m. What they discovered behind the closed door of the apartment was a scene of horror that would haunt Dallas for years to come. The night had been long for rookie officer Janice Crowther and her partner, already stretched thin by a 12-hour shift, managing crowds in town for a big game. Upon arrival, Crowther noticed Angie's Toyota Supra parked outside, a sinister stillness surrounding the apartment. She said that an eerie feeling overwhelmed her as she sought the apartment manager to gain entry. "I was shaking in my boots," Crowther said. "I could feel it. I knew something was wrong. It was kind of a surreal night. The sight that awaited them was one of pure horror." Crowther's partner, venturing into the bedroom, found Angie's lifeless body laying on the bed, devoid of clothing, her skin marred by blood. Her brilliant blue eyes, wide open, seemed to speak of the terror she had faced. The investigators began piecing together the puzzle. No signs of forced entry. Did Angie know her assailant? The autopsy report later revealed a brutal attack. Angie had been sexually assaulted and stabbed 18 times, with many of the wounds piercing her lungs and heart, leading to her untimely demise. The adjacent bathroom bore residues of blood, suggesting an attempt to clean up after the gruesome act. A single shoe was found in the living area. Angie's other shoe and clothing were on the floor beside her bed. The question remained: who could have committed such a savage act, and why? As dawn broke over Dallas, the sun's rays couldn't dispel the darkness that had descended. A killer was at large, and a community reeled in fear. But this was only the beginning of a mystery that would take decades to unravel. The Dallas Police Department faced a daunting task. A brutal crime had been committed, and now, the race against time to find the perpetrator began. Angela Samota's lifeless body spoke volumes to the experienced eyes of the investigators. Who had the motive? Who had the opportunity? Their first point of call? Those closest to Angie. Ben McCall, her boyfriend, was the last to hear her voice. Yet, as they delved deeper, the pieces didn't quite fit. Ben's alibi was solid, corroborated by the timeline of events. The focus shifted swiftly. Who else was in Angie's orbit? An ex-boyfriend known for a previous violent outburst, and 23-year-old architect Russell Buchanan, a friend who had reportedly harbored deeper feelings for her. The net of suspicion was cast wide. In a twist of fate, early DNA analysis provided a momentary breakthrough. The blood type at the scene didn't match Ben's or the ex-boyfriend's, but Buchanan's blood type? A match. The shadow of doubt lingered over him. In an era where DNA technology was still nascent, polygraph tests were the order of the day. Buchanan faced the machine's scrutiny and passed. The case, however, remained wide open. Despite the suspicions, the police could not gather sufficient evidence to charge Buchanan, who later left the country for graduate school. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the trail grew cold. A community left in fear, a family in unspeakable grief, and a killer walking along Dallas streets. But this was not the end of Angie's story. Her memory burned bright in the hearts of those who loved her, igniting a flame that would one day uncover the shocking truth. Despite the passage of time, the files of Angie's case remained in the archives of the Dallas Police Department. The evidence collected, the interviews conducted, the DNA samples taken, all waiting for a breakthrough. In the world of criminal investigations, time can be a double-edged sword. While memories fade and leads go cold, technology advances, opening new doors that were once closed. The late 80s and 90s saw significant advancements in DNA technology. Techniques once considered groundbreaking became routine, and databases of DNA profiles began to form, offering new hope in cold cases. Yet, as the 90s gave way to the new millennium, Angie's case remained unsolved. It would take more than just the passage of time and the advancement of science to crack this case wide open. It would take the determination and perseverance of someone who refused to let Angie's story end as an unsolved cold case. In every story marred by tragedy and injustice, there occasionally emerges a figure of unwavering resolve. For Angela Samota, this figure was Sheila Wysocki, her former college roommate and dear friend. Sheila, a psychology major, was the opposite of Angie. She battled dyslexia, struggled academically, and was also shy and reserved. Despite their differences, the two became best friends. Both of them grew up without fathers, which perhaps played a part in their close bond. After the tragedy, Sheila dropped out of SMU, unable to reconcile with the harsh reality of her friend's murder. She eventually moved on, marrying Charles and raising 2 sons in Tennessee, but the echoes of the past never fully faded. Haunted by Angie's unsolved murder, Sheila's life took a turn that no one could have predicted. Her journey from a grieving friend to a determined private investigator is nothing short of extraordinary. Years after Angie's death, Sheila, far from the world of criminal investigation, found herself at a crossroads. The memories of Angie and the gnawing need for closure propelled her into action. Driven by a promise made to Angie before her death, a promise to always look out for each other, Sheila embarked on a quest that would change her life forever. What does it take to solve a cold case decades old? For Sheila, it meant reinventing herself entirely. She became a licensed private investigator. Her mission was to bring Angie's killer to justice, a daunting task for even the most seasoned detectives. Yet, Sheila's resolve never wavered. She relentlessly contacted the Dallas Police Department over 700 times, urging them to reopen Angie's case. Her efforts, fueled by a deep sense of loyalty and justice, finally paid off. In 2006, thanks to Sheila's persistence, the case was reopened. Advances in DNA technology now offered new avenues to explore. The previously collected DNA samples became the key to unlocking the mystery of Angie's murder. But who would the DNA implicate? Could it really be that after all these years, the key to solving Angie's murder lay in the very evidence collected at the outset? Sheila Wysocki's dedication to her friend's memory changed the tide. But the journey was far from over. The path to justice is often long and winding, and this case was no exception. The year 2008 marked a pivotal turn in the Angela Samota case. After 24 years, a breakthrough was on the horizon, one that would emerge from the very core of modern forensics: DNA analysis. Detective Linda Crum, assigned to the case, re-examined the DNA evidence with the latest technology. The samples collected decades ago were now ready to reveal their secrets. The detective called Sheila Wysocki and said, "We got him." Sheila thought she meant Russell Buchanan, but in a twist of fate, the DNA found at the crime scene was matched to a name in the National Criminal Database: Donald Andrew Bess Jr., born on September 1, 1948, in Jefferson County, Arkansas, a convicted criminal already in prison, serving a life sentence for sexual assault. In 1985, Bess was sentenced in Harris County, Texas, to life imprisonment for 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault and 1 count of aggravated kidnapping. He refused to talk to female police officers, using derogatory names to refer to all women. The revelation was shocking. Bess, at the time of Angie's murder, had been out on parole while serving a 25-year sentence for sexual assault. He was a stranger to her, a transient predator whose path had tragically crossed with Angie's. Armed with this new evidence, the authorities moved swiftly. Bess was charged with capital murder for the sexual assault and killing of Angela Samota. The trial, held in 2010, was a culmination of years of pain, hope, and relentless pursuit of justice. The courtroom was charged with emotion as evidence and testimonies unfolded. One by one, witnesses took the stand, including Bess's ex-wife and several other women who testified to his history of violence and sexual assault. The defendant's ex-wife testified that he had also abused their child during their marriage. When 61-year-old Bess stood trial for murdering Samota, he was in poor health. His heart attack caused a 3-day delay. Bess's defense, including Robbie McClung, argued there was no definitive proof that Bess murdered Samota, suggesting that finding his DNA at the scene did not conclusively prove he was the killer, and Angie might have had consensual sex with the convicted criminal, and that she was a tease because of the clothes she was wearing that night. In closing arguments, McClung said, "Do we have to become such a knee-jerk society that just because we find semen, does it mean that person is a murderer?" The jury, faced with overwhelming evidence, found Donald Bess guilty. The verdict was unanimous, a death sentence. "I can't help but think Angela was gone in an instant and didn't have to live through that pain that this man, and no one else, inflicted on her," prosecutor Pat Curlin said. "We know it was him." Then Curlin stood in front of Bess, looking at him and said, "You and no one else are responsible." But justice, often delayed, is not always swift. Bess's appeals would stretch on, keeping him on death row for years. In October 2022, he died of heart attack while awaiting execution. For Angie's family and friends, the verdict brought a sense of closure, though the pain of loss remained. The conclusion of the trial, however, did not bring an end to the discussion and analysis of the case. The lead investigator on the case, Virgil Sparks, shared his belief that Samota's attacker was in the apartment when her boyfriend Ben McCall knocked on the door, possibly prompting the fatal attack. "I believe that when McCall knocked on the door, she tried to get up or call out," Sparks said. He also believes that the suspect cleaned up quickly and left the apartment while McCall was searching the neighborhood for Samota. For Sheila, solving Angie's murder was just the beginning. She said she was going to retire once Samota's case was solved. However, the tide turned when she began receiving letters from people desperately seeking answers about the unsolved cases of their loved ones. And she decided to keep it going. Sheila continued her work as a private investigator, taking on over 100 cold cases, successfully solving at least 53 of them, bringing closure to many other families. A combination of advanced forensic technology and the dogged determination of a friend seeking truth against all odds closed the chapter on one of Dallas's most haunting mysteries. The Dallas Police Department, spurred by the resolution of this case, saw the value in dedicating resources to cold cases. Angela's case changed the way law enforcement approached unsolved crimes. Do you believe that those letting convicted criminal Bess walk along the streets are partially responsible? Or is it only Bess's fault? Or maybe you agree with Bess's defense that Angela had teased him with her clothes. Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see the most interesting true crime cases.